All right, well, hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this user group meeting for Balancing Act for Housing for the Association of Bay Area Governments and all the cities and counties around the San Francisco Bay Area that are working on their housing element and using Balancing Act simulation to help with that. Once again, I'm Chris Adams, and let me show you my screen, and you can kind of get a sense of who we all are. This is a reminder for most people. But there are 4 of us that are working on this team with Balancing Act. Myself, Dan Ferguson, who is the software engineer who's been building all of the great software that you've been using. Amy Flynn, who's director of sales and a Bay Area resident. And then Garrett Hernandez-Reimer, who is our director of customer success. And those of you who have been working on your simulation, most of you have been talking to Garrett and hopefully getting some good ideas and strategies and know how to build the simulation that you want. Jennifer today is pretty simple. We've done a whole series of videos. If you are new to this call, we've done a whole series of videos that have kind of walked you stepwise through how to build a simulation, not just the technical side, but also just the considerations to take into account. And you should have that link. Garrett has put everything into a handy link, publicly accessible folder that has links to videos, tips, tricks, PowerPoints, etc. So if you don't have that, let us know. But because we've done so much of the how-to already, these next sessions are really responsive to what's going on with you, and we're also trying to create an opportunity for you to share good ideas with each other. So most of the format for today is going to be a workshop. We've got, I think, 2 or 3 of you who've volunteered to sort of show us your work in progress. So thank you very much for that. And we're just going to kind of walk through it and make some comments and kind of, you can share challenges. Like when I was thinking about doing X, I had to think about, how are people going to understand, this is connected or something like that, and just kind of talk through those. And we're not going to have solutions for everything, but from here at Balancing Act, we've got a lot of experience with building the simulation, so we can certainly help. But what I found to be even more exciting is when peers have ideas that they can share. So we're looking forward to all those things. And then at the end, Garrett was just sharing with me yesterday the list of, I think it's 31 Bay Area cities and counties that are using Balancing Act budget simulation. And I think only about 4 or 5 have gone live. And so we just want to, have a question, to pose to you as like, what else do you need in order to feel like you're ready to go live? And we can talk through that. And if the resources that we can present you with, we will do that. And then we want to share some communications. So the communications will take sort of 2 steps. One is I'll be sharing what we've seen work successfully for promoting a public policy simulation in other places. And I've got a lot of good examples of that. And then Leah Zippert, who's the sponsor of this project from ABAG, and also a public information officer at ABAG, will share some things that ABAG's got cooking for you all to help you with your outreach. And that's kind of it. So I'll just stop there. Am I forgetting anything? Any questions before we begin? All right, well, let's go ahead and start then. So again, I'm going to hand it over to you to, sort of lead us through the folks who had said that who had volunteered to let their simulation be workshopped, and also have them very prominently join in to talk about their experiences so far. So I'm going to stop sharing and let you take it away, Garrett, or if whoever's presenting from the jurisdiction wants to share your screen, that's fine too, either way.
Perfect. Yeah, so I think we'll start with Marin County. Jose, looks like you're in there. How are you doing, Jose?
I am good. Sorry, let me get my video started. Hey, there we go. I'm good. I can jump in here and let's see. Why don't I just provide an overview of what Marin is trying to do? Oh, Garrett, any other?
No, you
just jump in.
Took it away perfectly. Yeah.
Okay.
A slight overview.
Right, so let me try. The challenge with Marin. So obviously we're. Let me back up. My name is Jose Rodriguez. I'm a consultant with MIG, and we're assisting Marin, helping them with their housing, assisting them prepare their housing element as well as their safety element. So for Marin County, the challenges that we're having is, one, it's a very large county. Their arena number is 3,600 units, roughly, and yeah, that may not seem like a lot for a large county, but in the Marin County area, there's a challenge to build housing. There's land value, tons of environmental constraints, natural resources, and so those are some of the challenges we're having. The other thing is that every site that we've identified is going to be extremely controversial. The public is probably going to have lots to say on all the sites where we're doing. So just real quick, let me just provide an overview of what we're doing, and then I'll show you the balancing act that we started. It's not live yet, and we're trying to get it to go live fairly soon. To help the decision in identifying sites, the Board of Supervisors, working with county staff, has identified 4 key guiding principles that they want input on from the community. And those guiding principles are concentrate on infill development, or prioritize infill development, prioritize moving housing away from all of the hazards, sea level rise, wildfire issues, evacuation challenges. That's one of them. The other one is equally distribute the housing through the different areas of Marin County. Should we have between different areas, should there be an equal number of housing units in the RENA, so that there's within the coastal areas, the bay areas, the inland areas, and the city-centered areas, that there's an equal number of housing units. And then the last one is making addressing previous equity decisions and bring equity into the equation, or a lens to equity. So those are the 4 guiding principles. What the county wants to do is we have about 200 sites altogether. It's a lot. So we decided we can't put all of them into balancing act. So we've at least identified the top 17 sites in our balancing act map. And I will, Garrett, do I have shares? Do you want me to share my screen? Is that?
Yeah, you can. Let's see. Oh, there you go.
So again, this is a draft. So you can see, if we look at the county in totality, it's a large area. You can see it's hard to see. I apologize. There's that background noise. It's hard to see all the sites, and when you do see the sites, the largest sites are the ones that pop out the most on the map. And so what we've done is we put in those top 17 sites. But what the county also wants to do is they want to use the balancing act to make sure that the community can at least comment on many of the other sites. So let me back up. So we've identified 17 sites that we can adjust the housing units on. So we've done that. And then what the county wants to be able to use is as an input tool for comments. And I think that's where another challenge that we're having with the county. We're trying to at least get them to comment on some of the larger sites, or sites that there's definitely going to need some zone changes to meet the lower income RENA numbers. So what we've done is we have our 17. It's a lot. It's already a lot of sites, and staff recognizes that. But we do have a separate section where they can at least go in and provide a qualitative comment on particular sites. And so it is, if you do zoom in on some of those sites, you could comment, just do a comment on them. So we put that in there. So that allows that. Staff wants to put more. We're trying to, that's I guess another balancing act. We're trying to balance with the county staff to see how many sites we really should have to comment on. I think we locked in the top 17 sites where we can at least have some land use or talk about some housing changes. That's what they kind of want to build. And the other thing is they also want 4 different scenarios. So the nice thing is we're going to build one, and then we can copy over the entire balancing act and then readjust it based on the scenarios that I just talked about. We can adjust some of the numbers to show how the units differ in the infill sites, how the numbers vary if we take out sites that may be affected by sea level rise. So it's getting a little bit complicated. So we're working with a solution to kind of address that and get this live fairly soon. So anyway, that's basically the Marin County Balancing Act where we're at and how we're trying to finish it up. All right, that's it. I will stop sharing and turn it back to you.
Well, Jose, this is Chris. I would just ask the question, how are you feeling about its presentation? I mean, just honestly, it's a bit complicated, and using sites in a geographic area as large as Marin County is a little bit difficult. How are you feeling about this as a way to present opportunities for input from residents?
Well, I think that's where the challenge is at. I think the county, I mean, ideally, well, let me back up. The approach that the county is doing it, they're being politically sensitive, and they know they're going to get hit really hard by the public because there's a lot of sites. So with the approach we're doing is we're going to choose a lot of sites to begin with, and then based off public feedback and feedback from the Board of Supervisors, we're going to narrow the sites down and get to the arena, meet the buffer for the lower and the moderate. So we're starting large. So that's why we have so many sites. So I think that's where the challenge is the county would love to be able to comment on a lot of the sites, but that's just not possible. They do like, we were able to choose at least, 15, I think we had 17 sites we were able to, at least for them, they thought it was important that they were larger sites. They were within each of the different communities throughout Marin County, and they're within the Board of Supervisors districts. There was at least several of them in each of their districts. So they do like the fact that they can get comments on them. But yeah, I don't know. There's not I don't know if there's just because it's the large area, we're just based on what the tool provides. I think that's kind of what we were able just to accomplish at this point. I don't. Maybe if there is a way, I'm not sure if there's another way. I think there's too many challenges to meet, and unfortunately, we just have a short period to get this thing up. So we're just trying to get it live at this point and make something that meets the county's needs. So, Chris, you're on mute.
I remember we did have a call, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago about what the county wanted to have ultimately from this engagement process. Do you feel like obviously the all tools are imperfect, but do you feel like this tool is going to get the decision makers ultimately what they need in order to go through this public engagement process and come up with a workable solution?
Yeah, no, I think this is definitely going to be one tool that's available. The county is looking at other. There's an atlas that's being prepared that will allow comments. Basically, all the sites will just be available. It's kind of a website and Google Map based site where all the sites will be shown, and then they'll just be able to provide qualitative comments. They do like the fact that they're going to able to manipulate. They'll be able to choose a scenario that they want to take a look at. And they'll be able to provide comments on that scenario, and then comments on the sites that they felt like were important to get comments on. So I think that will be good in terms of getting ideas on housing sites on certain areas. There are some huge sites that could potentially put a lot of units, and so they're really interested on how those sites will perform based on comments from the public. So I think getting the public, this forum will definitely be one avenue to get specific comments on site, and they are looking at some. They have some other tools that they're making available. So they want to be able to provide options for the community. So this is definitely one of them.
Yeah. Okay. Good. One thing I wanted to just remind you. I don't know if how many of you were able to watch the special session of our user group that we had. I think it was December 18th or so. But we had the planning director from Elk Grove, from Sutherland Shire, and somebody from Lafayette, all three who have used the simulation before. In particular, the Christopher Jordan from Elk Grove, he created 2 versions of the simulation. One was the initial one that they put out to the public, and it had, I think, about 80 different sites on it. They weren't using the map. But one of the interesting things about his process was that they used the broadly disseminated one from to the public as a way to narrow things down, and then they created a special one just for the decision makers, so the planning commission and the elected officials. So that might be something that you think about as well. So using the public one as the broadest, but then when you think you're getting down to an actual plan, but you still don't want to quite close down participation opportunities, but even actually to create a tool for the elected officials to ultimately make the decisions, that might be something that you think about. And once again, you can kind of redact it. If you've got your basic one now, you can redact it. So I think that all looks pretty good.
Great, that's good feedback. Good.
And then the last thing I'll just ask, probably ask this of everyone, in our experience with using public policy simulations, it's mostly been in budget. But one thing that we found that really helps, and I'll just be a little candid here, it helps especially with budget finance officers, is when they get the communications function of the local government involved, a PIO or communications director. And so I was just wondering if, I know you're working mostly, and planners are, I think innately, and just as part of their profession, they actually, I think have a lot of skills doing public engagement and doing communication. But I'm just wondering if you've engaged the communications department or communications function at Marin County to sort of, once again, maybe, possibly refine the tool, or possibly just help you disseminate it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The Marin is, they've been using there is a workshop that that's coming up that they want to advertise it. They've used the Board of Supervisors meetings, but there's multiple workshops. They're using all types of avenues to get the word out, and they're definitely using their public information office as well. So yeah, they recognize that getting this out to the public is going to be extremely important, and they're recognizing a wave of comments and feedback from the public. So that's why they, again, looking at various tools to get that information to them and to the Board of Supervisors.
That's great. Well, I really like how you're actively seeking to get qualitative input on the sites that are presumptively in as well. Gary, did you have any comments or thoughts after looking at theirs?
I just know, Jose, you had one specific question about some sort of way to kind of get a bulk upload into Balancing Act. So I think I'll just want to set up a meeting with you after this, actually, and we can go through that, and I can even loop in Dan. And this is just another time to mention to anyone else, when you have a question, I'm always happy to jump on a 15-minute, 30-minute screen share and go through some solutions as well. But Jose, let's try and get that solution knocked out today.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
Perfect.
Let me just, we don't have to talk necessarily about the solution right now, but Jose, did you still have that issue where you might want to sort of combine a bunch of geographies into one interaction point on the simulation?
Yeah, no, we're still, the county, it's definitely still pushing to put more sites on there, to at least provide that qualitative comments and not necessarily the sites to make decisions on housing units. But yeah, we're still trying to figure out what the compromise is. If there's not, if we can't bulk load, and maybe it's still a technical issue about just loading each of the housing sites. But since there's so many sites in Marin County, they still want to be able to, at least a lot of the larger sites, to put that in. So there's a quicker way to put those in. That's I guess we're trying to work with Garrett and his or the team to figure that out. But if there isn't, we're definitely looking at just some backup ideas.
Okay, and then I guess the other question is, do all of those sites, do they need to remain independent, meaning that they have an independent interaction point on the simulation, an independent opportunity to make comment, or could they be combined? Because that's one of the things that we thought might be useful for the larger jurisdictions, is to combine a bulk of them. And if that's the case, we actually do have a way. I'm pretty sure Dan might have to correct me, but I'm pretty sure we have a way of adding multiple sites to one interaction point on the simulation.
Yeah, no, I think that might be a compromising feature, is allow some congregation of sites to for edit, for at least for commenting. Yeah, because again, the challenge is being so sparse. So if there's one area that's way up in the inland area, like around Tamales or Point Reyes Station, and maybe just the comments there are can be provided in bulk, or at least a bunch of sites at once. I think that'll probably work for the county as well.
Yeah, and I think if there are some sites that maybe this is too strong a word, but might be presumptively to be included, but you still want to show them on the simulation, but you don't necessarily want to make it the focal point for interaction. I think that combining them like that could actually serve a number of purposes, making it less cluttered, directing people to the areas that really do need more public comment, and also it just making the simulation so it's not so vertical. It doesn't scroll down so far. I think that might all be good. But and once again, Garrett, I think had already talked about.
You accidentally went on mute.
I think you went on mute again.
Sorry, I think we do have a way, I think, to combine multiple geometries within one file that you can then have people interact in bulk with those, and that might be the solution. I mean, you know, it gets difficult, especially with these larger jurisdictions, but I think that might actually help a lot.
All right, great, appreciate it.
Perfect.
All right, and thank you,
So,
thank you for sharing your challenges with us.
Great, no, thank you.
Yeah, that was great. And then just to keep things rolling, maybe Sonoma, Wendy. I think I can actually pull up your simulation if that's easier, and you can just kind of do a overview, high level of what you're wanting to do. And then I know you had a couple questions, so we can try to workshop those.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Wendy with the City of Sonoma. I'm the lead project manager for the housing element, and I'm also the GIS analyst for the city. So I've got a combination of good skills to help me with this.
Perfect, and here it is.
So just this morning, I added this cute little video at the top of the screen. It's just a housing element 101. You don't need to play the whole thing, but that was neat. And
that looks good.
Yeah, and then have some introductory slides and talk, kind of use the was it the city of Lafayette as an example.
Oh yeah.
And have folks enter their postal code.
And then they'll continue. Looks like you have a couple things required here.
Right.
That's great. Then they'd go in here.
Yeah, and so at the top it says 321 housing units, and that number should be 311, and I can't figure out how to get that changed.
We'll go through that, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm having on this map, I want to have these different zoning areas, or so we have each district, and so I want to have that on the map, but I'm having problems with my Geojson. But if you click on the information buttons, you can get some information about that particular zoning district, and then you can click on more information and get even more information. And
that's great.
I think that maybe after we have our opportunity sites defined, we might do another simulation with housing sites and how many units folks might want on those different areas, but just trying to get through this one first. And then see, my arena says 311 here, but then up at the top it's different, so I need some help with that.
All right, well, we can go ahead and kind of take a peek into that. So let's see here. So over here on housing requirement,
go back to the simulation and let's just show her where the discrepancy is coming in. So if you scroll down, I think what happened, you might have clicked the default or something. So under Gateway District, it's got a default selected. You've got a yes selected, and so that's what's throwing things off.
So here it's adding minus 10 housing to your housing units here.
Oh,
yeah. So this is a super simple one to fix.
Oh, goody.
The thing is, before you leave that, Garrett, is that you're using the select multiple feature, which means that both of those two things could be selected. So if it is a yes, no, you probably don't want to have the select multiple. You probably just want to select one.
Right.
And I was going to say also with Jose's site, Jose, I wasn't sure when you showed us your scenario questions, I wasn't sure if you meant to use select multiple like we're seeing right now, or if you intended to use the choose only one. And we don't need to discuss it right now, just to raise it for you, because I think what I saw of yours, it might have been more of a select multiple, but I think Wendy's is definitely a select only one.
Perfect. Yes, thank you. So now we'll go into that. So yeah, Wendy, you set up everything perfectly over here on the housing requirements, because you're right, you have your 311. But then as Chris pointed out, we just have that extra 10 units down here in the Gateway District. So here, what I'm going to do to just investigate it is click on the customize button here. And then we're going to edit this scenario question, because you actually made that a scenario question. So here it's Gateway, you have the question, should more housing be built in the Gateway District? And then this is what Chris was talking about.
Right.
Right now we have the yes selected by default, so that's why it's just going to add those 10. So we'll just unclick that. And then here's the second option. Do you want users to select multiple options? So if you just want users to select either yes or no, we'll just unclick that. Click done. Oh, so it is looking like we have to set up a default. So what
Check and see what the, open up the no, I think. Did you want the default to be yes or no, Wendy?
Yes, yes or no, yes. Yes or no.
Okay.
Did you want the default to be a yes or a no?
Oh, yes. I think.
Because maybe you want to keep it at, because you want to keep it at 0 for no, because then that'll keep your allocations.
That's right.
The correct one.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. It's always easier to see when. Let's see, that's not clicking done. Let me just get out of here and do it again. So we're going into here. Don't want to allow. We're going to have no as the default. We're going to change no to just 0. Click done. There it goes. And now, as we preview this.
Ah, look at that.
Yep, there's the 311. And then we'll go down here. And there it is. So now it's default to no. But now if I do want to click yes, then that will change it from 311 to 321.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to look at that.
Well, no, that's what you want, because you've actually just made it more difficult to meet your goal. Well, actually, I think that,
or
that
unless
should,
this
not
is a positive.
That should be,
This
yeah,
maybe
that
it should be a
positive.
positive.
Yeah,
10.
yeah,
Yeah.
it should be positive.
Yep.
All right,
Cool.
good.
All right.
If all questions were that easy, we would love it. But we know.
And
that
then, and then did you have another one with mapping maybe? The GeoJSONs?
Yeah, I think maybe I might have to have a separate meeting with Dan.
Okay, well, let's see. Are you just interested in knowing where to plug in your GeoJSON?
Well, I tried to download my JSONs in my Excel or CVS file, but it's not uploading right.
Okay, so do you have, so if you do have a GeoJSON, like for example, for the downtown district, where you can add it, if you don't want to use the CSV import, is actually just go into this customize button again, edit the standard plus or minus settings, and this is going to bring up the item map. So then from here, if you do have that GeoJSON, you can just click on edit GeoJSON.
Okay.
And you can actually just copy and paste it into here.
Okay, let me try that offline, and then I'll get back in touch with you if I have trouble.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and then if you are using the HES tool, which is one of the ABAG resources that maybe Leah can touch on again, or Dan can jump on, we can actually enable that onto your site. So then you're able to just type in the address of the site, and then it'll automatically populate into here with the GeoJSON. So that's another solution. But yeah, maybe we can have a short screen share call today, tomorrow. Okay. Cool.
Great. And then as soon as I get the mapping and the GeoJSONs all lined up, we can go live. We're having a joint study session with the Planning Commission and City Council next Tuesday, and we're going to go live with our housing element website. And it would be great if we could go live with the balancing act as well, but that's our plan.
Perfect. Yeah, it's great. And it looks like you've already have the display a map feature. You can change the map height here, and then you've already changed the shape color. So we're almost there.
Yeah, I can't tell what the shape color is. I don't know.
It's only because we just don't have any shapes in there. So,
Oh,
but
okay.
when they are, they'll be green
Oh,
versus
I
the
see.
default orange. Yep.
Okay.
Cool. So do you have any other questions, comments? But like I said, we can jump on the screen share right after this too.
Nope, that's it for me. Thanks.
Cool. Well, yeah, thank you for sharing. Definitely
Yeah,
appreciate
it's looking
that.
good, Wendy. Look forward to
Yeah.
seeing the final product.
And then Austin, if you're on, I'd love just for you to kind of share San Leandro. I think you guys are live, and I think it's really impressive, to be honest. It's looking really cool.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we are live. We went live last week. We've only had 8 people so far fill it out, but that's all right. Let me see here.
Maybe when Chris kind of goes to the communications slides, maybe there's some ideas we can pull from that to kind of even broaden the submissions.
All right, let me see here. All right, can you see my screen? Oh, wait.
Yep.
So you can see the background or the
back end here. Yep.
Yeah, the back end. There we go. Okay, so they have arena of 3,855 for San Leandro, but we have a lot of sites that we can pick from. So we mostly just went with 0 for picking, and then we went up to like a 50% buffer. And this is just kind of our intro screen. I like their seal or logo. So, but oh yeah, and I'm Austin. I'm with Rincon Consultants, so we're supporting San Leandro and Hayward. But this is kind of our directions that the city wanted, and then there's our map buffer. And then we decided against density just because we thought that residents would be a little bit more confused by it. So we went with housing unit allocations instead. And so we have like information here and just kind of where each neighborhood is. And we decide to describe the focus areas even more down below. So that's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah, and I really like how you're able to kind of leverage those help videos that we provided, that Dan created. It's the change because you're not using density, but you want the map to change colors. So maybe if you could just show, maybe just, yeah, if you just increase this now, and this is number 1. So here at the bottom right, as he increases, and they do have a lot of
yeah, I was gonna say
here.
we might have messed up with just having 50, but that's okay.
But yeah, as you can see,
it's starting to get darker.
Yeah, it's starting to get darker here. So that number 1 spot, if anyone else is interested in not using density and just housing units, but want the map to change colors, and we have the help videos ready for that as well. And I think it's just a good indicator for residents to see exactly what they're changing and where they're changing it on the map. So I do like that feature a lot.
For sure. Yeah, and you helped me out a lot with it because I was like, wait a minute, what is going on with this? So
oh yeah.
Austin, I like it an awful lot too. One thing I'd like to ask though, the rate at which the opacity gets darker is determined by the limit that you put in for the site. And I peeked at one of yours yesterday, and the limit was really high, which is one reason why you had to click it so much in order for the area 1 on the map to darken. Did you mean to have it that high and require that much addition of density before you can really see a visible difference?
I don't think we meant to do that. Like we were trying to get it to go darker quicker, but we weren't sure like how many units, because I thought you had to specify in terms of like the units that you would pick. So like we picked 50 initially just because we only have like the 5 neighborhoods, and actually 4 because this one is just like a comment one. you know, in case residents want to put housing in another location. So that's something I kind of want to change, just because it is like, if you're doing the exercise, you're just clicking a lot, you know.
Mhm. Chris, I think you might have gone on mute again.
Sorry, you can do two things. You can lower the goal so that it's much more sensitive to the clicks, but then you can also put in a limit, like a city of Cupertino. If you try to put too many housing units in one area, it says, you know what, you've already put 400 units in this geographic area. That's really as many as you can put here. So put some housing units someplace else. So you have that option. That's just an easy configuration that we can show you, or and it's pretty straightforward though, if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I mean, I guess it's not going to affect it too much since it's live already though, right?
You can definitely edit a live simulation, and there's a minor problem in that you had 8 people go through it already, but I wouldn't really worry about that too much. I mean, it's more of a public engagement exercise where you want people to experience the difficulty of the trade-offs, and you do want the information as well, but I wouldn't worry about disturbing the data too much if you wanted to make an improvement like that, even after you've launched.
Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna ask the city about it, but yeah, that was like the one thing I was like, wow, you're just kind of sitting here clicking a lot. So,
and I think that could make for a frustrating user experience. They might say, I'm not making any difference. So yeah, I'd really encourage you check with the city and see if they would be okay with making that a little bit more sensitive to user input.
definitely.
Perfect. But yeah, I really like how it looks, and the entry screens I think are really helpful. If you actually refresh this again, I like how and we're kind of gonna go into this a little bit later, but it looks like a branded campaign in itself. Yeah, San Leandro housing element update. So you have your own logo just pertaining to this in particular. And then if you click continue, you have kind of just like what Wendy was showing us with Sonoma, just really clear cut instructions on what to do here. So yeah, I really like how this looks.
Definitely. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, congratulations.
All right. So, Chris, did you just want any questions, comments there, or we can just kind of keep going since it is the 10:41 mark? And I think you went on mute again.
There we are. Yeah, no, that was great. Thank you. You know, just in the spirit of learning, all of you to share. I know Austin, yours was it has been launched, but works in progress. I mean, all of these can be works in progress in a sense that they can always be better. So thank you all for sharing with that. So we just did our workshop. Now I'd just like to ask, you know, for you all to say, you know, what it is that you need. As I said, I think we've got about 6 or 7 that have actually fully live published. And so I guess the question is, you know, what can we do to help you get to that point where you feel like pushing the activate button and inviting the public to interact? And Edward, I see that your hand is up.
Hey, yeah, thanks. You know, one thing that we're looking at, we're still working on our parcel list, so we haven't actually started working on the simulation. But one thing that we wanted to include, and you'll have to remind me if this was included in a previous simulation, the density visualization. I thought I saw someone do a demonstration where when they clicked on the parcel, it would show what the density might look like at, say, 2 units per acre, 20 units per acre, you know, 40 units per acre, depending on what the zoning threshold. There's sort of like this seminal text where you could have a visualization where it would show sort of like an aerial, what a sample elevation might look like, and then from sort of like a map roads view. Maybe I'll share it with you guys and say, you know, this is kind of the visualizations we're looking for. But say someone's trying to decide like 10 units, 20 units, 40 units. We wanted it to sort of have this visualization, like this is what we do in our community meetings is we'll show a graphic like, oh, this is what density looks like.
Yeah.
And that's sort of some of the feedback that we're getting when people like don't really have a clear idea of what, you know, 20 units per acre looks like versus 5 units per acre.
Yeah. So the good news there is that that's a really easy thing to do.
Yeah.
We don't have that standardized like in a template, because we've realized that 10 units per acre might look one way in San Leandro, it might look another way in Berkeley, might look another way in Sonoma. But it's really easy just to upload a photo. There's an editor. There's just a little picture. There's a photo icon. You click it, you add your photo, and you're done.
Okay. Yeah, I think that'd probably be helpful for a lot of people. Maybe I'll shoot over to the team. There's a seminal text called Visualizing Density that we sort of refer to a lot, but I kind of need to look into like copyright issues if there's anything about using that. Have you guys run into anything about copyright when using like photos or maps or anything like
No, the only thing is that our terms of use say that you're responsible for making sure that you don't violate copyright
for sure.
So, but there's a lot of images out there, so it seems like you should be able to find some images. And once again, it might be something that you could borrow from other cities and counties. I'd say about half of our live simulations use some kind of a visual depiction of what a sample visual of what a certain level of density might look like. So maybe even some people on this call might have some ideas, and you can just put it in chat if you do.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for the question. What else? Any other? Just questions about what do you need in order to feel comfortable launching? Is it a technical issue? Is it a strategy issue? Communications issue? Pierce.
Yep.
Hi, good morning. I had a couple of questions.
Yeah. And would you mind saying where you're from too, Pierce?
Yeah, I was just saying that. I was going to say that. I'm a senior planner with the city of Piedmont, and we've just narrowed down the sites that we'd like to use. So we'll start entering those into HES and translating them into the Geojson files. A couple of questions. We think our residents are going to be more likely to participate if the information is confidential and not a public record. So is it possible just to get from Balancing Act the results without the IP addresses so that we can maintain a certain amount of confidentiality? And then my second question is, I agree that residents are going to be able to relate to numbers of units rather than density, but having those examples of what different densities look like is also a very good educational tool. So is there a feature in Balancing Act that will take that number of units and then calculate for the residents' reference the resulting density, so they can then look at maybe an image that represents what that kind of density can look like?
So if I'm understanding correctly, I might need help on this. Are you thinking about doing density in a similar way as what Lafayette did, where you have areas, right? And so the output of that is it does tell you what the density per acre is. And so what Lafayette did was they then just had images that show what that looks like.
Yes.
And the best place to put that probably is at the very bottom, so that it's just generally available on the screen. And I'm pretty sure that's what Lafayette did. Does that work for you?
Yeah, I liked the Lafayette example a lot, but I also agreed that it would be nice just to tell residents, just give us a ballpark figure of how many units, and then we'll tell you what that resulting housing type might look like.
So you mean like let people enter a certain density and then an image pops up?
No. Can you go up to that's Lafayette's, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I guess it's really, so they've got two tables, density and total allocation, total units.
Yeah, that's the arena.
Uh-huh. Okay, so that the Balancing Act is calculating that number to the far right. I mean, the units per acre.
Yeah, well, the far right is total units. Hey, Garrett, open that up, please. But if you look just below the title, it says 155 dwelling units per acre. That moves, that changes. So Garrett, go up and down a little bit. See how? Yeah. So that 165, 170. Okay.
Yeah, we like that a lot. Okay. And I've already asked the architects that designed those prototypes at the bottom for their permission, and they said we could use it as long as we gave them credit. So that's what we plan to do.
Okay, great. And then Leah Zippert from ABAG just put in chat that they are developing a library that could be used, an image library. I didn't read the whole chat, but Leah, do you want to jump in and just say something about that now? It's come up.
Sure. So we know that photos are a really valuable way to really demonstrate what projects could look like. And so for each county, we will be taking images representing different project housing types in every single county. So that is in process now. And we hope to have it available in the next month.
Okay, thank you for that. And then Pierce, your other question had to do with public information. So the public information laws, I mean, I think I'm not an expert on California public information laws, but I think if you collect the data, it's public. And so the way this has been handled in the past is that if you don't want to potentially have that data exposed, is that you just choose not to ask for any personally identifiable information. I believe that IP address is not considered personally identifiable information. There might be some there might be some disagreement on that, but I think generally it's not considered personally identifiable information. So I think you're fine. Do you have different information or a different interpretation, Pierce?
No, that's fine. That's a great answer. I just so the Piedmont is just so small that we can't even use postal codes or census tracts. It's all the same census tract, all the same postal code. So we're trying to think of ways that we could maybe track what type of neighbors are open to greater density and which neighbors are not. But I think instead we just would rather encourage people to participate and be able to assure them that their personal information is confidential and not subject to Public Records Act request.
Yeah. So as I said, IP address is provided to you and it's associated with a comment, but you check with your attorney on this. I don't think that that's considered personally identifiable information in the US. In Canada, I think there might be a different view. In the US, that hasn't come up as PII.
Okay.
And then the other thing I would just recommend thinking about is using that drop a pin feature. Do you know what I'm talking about when I say that?
Yes.
Okay. That seems to me to be the best compromise between getting a pretty good sense of where somebody is without asking for their address.
Yeah, we're looking into that.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Anything else before we kind of go into the home stretch here? Any other reasons why or barriers, challenges to you not going live? All right. Well, doesn't have to be the end of the conversation because we are available to help if you need it, but I'm going to go ahead and keep going. And what I want to do next is I just want to show you some examples of communications and material and strategies, but I'm really going to leave it to, or I'm going to introduce Leah to talk about the things that ABAG is producing. And the one thing that I'll say is that we are community engagement experts at Balancing Act, but we're not communications experts, and there's a difference. I've really come, especially in the last 5 or 6 years, to appreciate the value of a communications professional to really help you, not only to make sure that your simulation isn't too jargony or it doesn't have things that are unclear, but to just also help get the word out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to that's my first recommendation, is to make sure to have your PIO or your communications director involved in publicizing this. And now I'm just going to show you a few examples that we've seen work, and then I'm going to turn it over to Leah to talk about what ABAG is putting together. So it's been really fun. Like we work with the city of Phoenix. Phoenix uses us for budget. They have what they call Fund PHX, Fund Phoenix, and it's actually a brand, and it's a place where people can go to to learn about the budget there and interact with the simulation, get information, et cetera. We kind of liked what Brisbane did. They, have Balance Brisbane. Cupertino, is doing some really cool stuff. We saw San Leandro, I think it was, that has some nice visuals just to make it sort of attractive. This is some from Cupertino as well. They're using a public engagement platform. I know that a number of you are using tools like Bang the Table that are sort of an ongoing evergreen destination for public engagement. We've actually found that that really works well because people know where to go to engage with their city. And so if you're using that tool, Balancing Act can be used in concert with that in a very effective way. We think that's very useful. The one thing that I've noticed that can sometimes be a problem if you're using a community engagement platform is that if you want people, if the simulation is one of your key tools, sometimes it can get buried. If people have to click too many times to get to it, people don't know it's there. And so this is the top of their page in Cupertino. You have to scroll down quite a bit to see the simulation, which may be fine. But we've seen probably a higher usage of the simulation if it's one click away, or the closer up to the top as you can get it. So I'm going to just show you some examples now from budget. So we've seen the media tend to really like publicizing simulations because it's an invitation for people to participate. It's not just one-way information. We think that's a powerful thing. This is from Quincy, Illinois. Public radio really seems to like simulations as well. So this is on the left is public radio from Syracuse, New York. On the right is Dane County, Wisconsin, which is the big county around Madison. KQED has done a story on the city of San Jose using Balancing Act. So it just another way to get things out. This is city of Pittsburgh. The mayor went on TV to invite people to provide input on the budget. Lynchburg, Virginia also got some TV coverage as well. So big and small cities getting this. We've had cities as large as Phoenix and Washington, D.C. and those media markets getting some attention. That's an important public problem, and it's actually inviting the public to come in and help solve the problem. I love this example. This is a TV anchor in Norfolk, Virginia, and the city was considering a tax increase. So once again, sort of an unpopular, at least popularly unpopular action that the city council was thinking about taking. And this is just what we try to do with the simulation, is we try to say what the news anchor said on the bottom here, where the news anchor says, if you don't like the proposed tax increase, then show the city what you would cut. That's essentially the opportunity you have with the simulation, is to say, okay, if you don't like what we're proposing, then please tell us what you would do. But we all have to be accountable for solving the problem. So we found, once again, simulations just seem to be attractive to the media in a way that other community engagement campaigns and communications campaigns may not be. We're working with a big city in Texas right now that is going to be making utility bill inserts, which I think is kind of a cool way to advertise. This is actually Charlottesville, Virginia, where they got a really good turnout by advertising with just a simple little flyer that they put in their utility bill. Social media, it works really well with social media. One thing I wanted to point out on the right here, probably the biggest pop we've ever seen in terms of participation in our budget simulations has been when community-based organizations have been involved. And so this one on the right is an Instagram post, and it doesn't come from the city of Austin. It comes from these 4 community-based organizations down here: the Austin Justice Coalition, Just Liberty, Texans Fair Defense Project, and then Texas Appleseed. They got about 9,000 users that were, I think, largely attributable to these guys going to the simulation. So community-based organizations can be a really powerful way to broaden your input and get input from more people. This is just an example of a little meme. This took a couple hours to create. It's kind of funny. It's just asking the dog what the dog would do, and of course the dog would like to make the whole city into a dog park at a cost of $1 billion. This one is from Eastvale, California, down south. We've seen more and more that just talking into the camera can be a really powerful way to just kind of get a message across. Especially, I'm not sure who this man is, but especially if it's from an elected official, somebody who is known in the city or in the community, to say, look, we've got something that we need to work on together, and please, give us your participation. Really easy to do, especially, one of the upsides of COVID is that people are pretty appreciative of, informal videos. You don't have to have high production values. Our team kind of joked that this is like a guy between 2 ferns. It doesn't have to be, super fancy, but just sort of looking into the camera and kind of asking people to help solve a problem. Events. This is actually a high school in Colorado where the superintendent and the school board invited about 500 people to come out and sort of weigh in on some plans that they had for the school for funding that would require funding. At the end, they invited everybody to sort of go into a classroom, and they did the simulation together. So I know you probably can't do that because of COVID. But then you've got the city of Tacoma that had 380 people sign up to go through the simulation using our meeting mode. We talked about that pretty extensively in a previous session. If you need a refresher on that, let me know. But that worked really well. And so I'm going to just stop there and turn it over to Leah to talk. Sorry, Leah, I talked a little bit too long. Yep, and you're on mute.
No worries about talking too long. That's, communications is a really important aspect of this program. I would, recommend that all of you take a look at the Housing Technical Assistance website. I'll go ahead and put it into the chat. I did previously the local engagement pages. There's also a number of resources around AFFH. We've done a training series, some in communications. That is linked off of the page I just posted. In addition to the photographs, which is part of our toolkit that we're working on, we will be producing a research-based communications guide developed off of a couple of years of polling and other communications related activities around housing to provide you all with some messaging. I know we don't want to use that word, but the best way to talk about housing to your residents, that will include communications about AFFH. We're producing a non-traditional media guide, which will include CBO listings that Chris was talking about being such an important role. Your PIOs most likely have relationships with CBOs, but we're expanding the list to include non-traditional media sources. The other thing outside of the toolkit that we will be providing is on-call communications consulting. So that's really focused on, if you've got some challenging issues, and we will do some coaching for elected officials as part of that contract. The AFFH resources, both outreach, as I mentioned, and then of course we have a lot of data and other resources associated around that. We do have a social media toolkit that's already available. Let me put that into the chat right now. And then we will be, we also have access to translation services, which I did mention before on an earlier set of these workshops, but we'll be continuing that throughout. There is a set amount for each jurisdiction, but it is available. I think a couple of folks on this call have already used it. And it's a fairly simple form to go ahead and fill out. And I do want to comment that the social media toolkit has already been translated into multiple languages. With communications, make sure that the resources are easy to find. Make sure that the simulation is, if not on your city's homepage, if there isn't room, on your housing element page. If you bury it, people aren't going to know how to do it. Elected officials are usually, once you show them this tool, are usually really happy to send things out via Twitter. And they are a great way to do this. And I see we're after 10 o'clock, so unless you've got any questions, I'll stop now.
So Leah, I'll just echo that, and I didn't really talk about this too much, but the other thing that we've seen, so earned media, CBOs, the other thing that really gets a lot of pop is if elected officials will actually put it on their social media. City of Nashville, the mayor of Nashville put it on her Facebook page, then there were 2,200 visitors to their simulation in about 3 hours. It was just really phenomenal. So get the elected officials involved in publicizing this, and it's in their interest because they want to have as much broad community understanding of the challenges of this issue as possible. The other thing I would say is let communications professionals be your auditor. And it may be that they can't actually, you can't do anything about it, but we had some questions among our team about what is density units per acre, and we just didn't know. And so if we had trouble with that, it might be that the public did. So it might, you might want to think about whether or not you want to use that term. And that's why we came up with that alternative way of thinking about, allocating housing of number of units as opposed to density units per acre. I mean, it might be that you need to for technical reasons or whatever reasons that you have. But let communications people go through your simulation and say, this doesn't really make sense. I don't know if a normal people or if a regular person who's not a planner would understand that. They can actually play that role really usefully. All right, so thank you all for participating. We'll maybe check in with you in a couple weeks and see if it would be useful to have another user group meeting in a month or two. But we're not really planning anything at this moment, but we're sure that we're not done communicating and supporting each other as it is. So I don't know, Leah, Garrett, Amy, anything else from you all?
I think just, yeah, don't hesitate to reach out to me, email questions. And like I said a couple times, just 15-minute screen shares.
Yeah,
I'm available for that. So
yeah.
I'll be here.
And we'll publicize all this information. The recording will all be available in that shared folder that we've been publicizing. We'll send that out to you again. If you're not getting
that out, yeah, I'll send that out in a follow-up email. And if you haven't gotten a follow-up email, just send me an email directly, and I'll make sure you're on the list. Yeah. Sometimes it just doesn't send to everyone, sadly. But just send me an email if you're not getting the follow-up emails.
And add us to your safe receiver list if you can too, because we have heard that we've been moved into spam a little bit. So, all right, thanks everybody. We'll be in touch soon. Bye.
Bye everyone.